Welcome to my wood shop. We're going to be carving a design into a board. The name of this project is called a Bas Relief. You're going to have your choice between carving some type of a plant, animal design of some sort, or something out of the human kingdom. What we're going to do is take you through step by step how we're going to do this. So this project, this Bas Relief project, is really perfect for ninth graders because it gives them that polarity of the inner and the outer that they get to experience and work with. It also gives them a chance to work in the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. If they wanted to do some kind of something for the mineral kingdom, I would let them do it. But in this case, what I'm going to do in this lesson is show you how to do something in the human kingdom. For them, their assignment is to make a drawing of some plant possibilities, some animal possibilities, or some human figures that they want to carve into their wood. I want them to have two figures in their project. One is going to be in the foreground, one in the background. So if you see the bigger horse is in the foreground and the smaller horse is in the background. So it's the same thing with any of these projects that you're going to do, that maybe the smaller object could be in the foreground and the larger object in the background. But I think that because of perspective, it might be better to make the smaller object in the background. So first thing we're going to do is to do a drawing. And you can see that it's very three-dimensional because of you see the perspective here. So it's really going back into the depth. So this, of course, will be deeper, and then this figure here will be in the very foreground. And then you have these two figures that are in the background that are just barely even recognizable as figures. About how big do I want to make this? Oh, about this big. Should be enough. There's our piece. Now we're going to look at it to see where there might be some damage or not. It's got a kind of a messed up corner, so I'm going to use this side as the front. Some of these projects you want to have a kind of a border around it. So if I put a border, it's going to make everything smaller, and I'm going to see less of my details here. You can always add a border later on with another piece of wood nailed onto the side. So I'm not going to put a border on this, although this is an example, nice example of a border, and I try to have my students always put a border around it. It kind of makes it finished off and looks much better. You could actually cut this to size, tape it on here, and then just start using your tools to kind of make my outlines, the main outline. So I'm just going to basically put a very slight outline of the project in. Now before I take this all the way off, I'm going to give myself an idea where that mouth is. And the eyes. This is actually a better technique for longer cuts, longer lines, like this arm here that we're doing. And I'm pressing pretty hard with this blade. I want to make a good impression there. Okay, so I've cut in all the major parts of the design. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the paper off. Okay, so that's what I'll start, is the main outline of this figure is what I'm going to concentrate on. Then we'll see what I'll do next. I'm going to be carving away all this background and leaving the figure in the foreground. But I need to have a straight line going in first before I start gouging around. Okay, so now that I've got the main outline of the main figure chiseled in, I didn't put too much of a chisel mark right here yet. I'll do that after I get the main outline dug away a little bit. But before I do that, I want to make sure I don't lose track of where this fence is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few marks here. They're going to be deeper so that they won't get erased, and I'll use them for reference. So as we carve this outline, it makes that fence disappear. That's why I wanted to put these deeper marks up here so we didn't lose track of where the fence is. I'm going to put couple of little markers here that'll remind me where this little cloud is in the background. I'm going to kind of stab this in so that will be a marker for me to look at later on. I'm going to carve that thing away. That'll do the trick. What I'm doing here is I'm digging away more and more of the wood behind this figure, and that allows this figure to come forward into the foreground. So that's what I'm doing here, is just going around and going deeper and deeper to make this figure look like it's popping out of the wood more. Now eventually everything that I've drawn in here or sketched in here will be gone because I'm carving it away. But I have to keep making it stand out so that it will be back there further away. That's what I'm doing now, is just going along and making this figure stand out more. And then I'll give it a little bit more detail to the arms and how it differentiates from the chest and the chin and the chest. It's a good time to talk about the tools. So if you look at a gouge, now the gouge have different levels of curviness, okay, if you want to call it that. This less curved gouge is what you want to use to take out a lot of the marks that the deeper gouge leaves. And then again, you want to go to one that's even less curved than that. In fact, this is a chisel. There's no curve at all. And this one can actually take all the little marks out from the gouge. As you see, it's smoother. So I thought I'd let you know a little bit about that. Now these chisels that I have here, there are a lot more variety and a lot more choices than this simple set. So depending on how involved you want to get in your carving career, you might want to get more detailed chisels. I've got the main figure in here. I want to put the two other human figures in. They're going to be in the background, but I have to take all this material away before I can even carve those in. At this point, I've erased those fence lines. I'm going to go ahead and reestablish those and go a little even deeper now. See, by keeping these fence lines established in a perspective view, it gives you a sense that it's going deeper and deeper as you get further back to these figures in the back. So the pencil lines are basically establishing where the fence is and where it isn't. So you need to establish all the lines and then cut away where there is no fence. I've kind of got the basics of where the fence is and the main figure and the two secondary figures. So now I'm going to come back and work a little bit more on the main figure and define that just a little bit more, where the arms and the head and the chest and everything are. So these fine little details that I'm working on right now, most of them are going to disappear by the time I'm done with this. But I have to keep them going because they will disappear and I won't know where to take up, where I left off. So I'm coming in here and I'm showing where the arms and the body are in relation to each other. It's a little detail work, but it still needs to be done. When you're doing a bas relief, you want to have either the background to be smooth, textured, and the foreground have the texture that's your eye is going to, or you can have it just the opposite. The foreground can be smooth and sanded, and the background have the texture. But it's really good to have both. Now, behind me, I have an alligator that the foreground and the background is all textured, and even though it's a big alligator sticking out, you can barely see it because of the texture. So this is going to be sanded in the front. These figures and the fence are going to be sanded, and the background is going to be all textured. And now I want to go ahead and finish the texture on the background and have this go all the way from edge to edge and down here. Last little bit of the carving with the gouge, and then I'll go ahead and sand it. It's kind of cool. The sanding effect kind of gives it that kind of almost ghostly effect that Edvard Munch had in his original Scream. So now I'm going to use this really small gouge to get right into the details of the eyes and the mouth. Because, what is Edvard Munch's scream without the mouth open screaming? Okay, so I think that's about as far as I'm going to go with this project at this point. I'm going to go with the finer and finer grades of sandpaper on the main figure and these two figures back in the background. And then once I've got it really, really sanded nicely to my desire, then I will go ahead and put some oil on it. Like we're about there. I think I'm going to oil it next. And there we go. So you might want to give yourself maybe 10 hours for a project like this, and maybe even more. As you noticed, I used different types of chisels and sizes for different parts of this project. And, some were more curved than the others, some were flat, some pointy, and some not. It's a lot like a painter. Uses different brushes and different medium to get different technique. You have to use a different size tool sometimes to get a certain technique. And that's the finished project here. And this is really a good thing for ninth graders to do because it gives them that polarity, the inner and the outer. They're working either in the human world or the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this particular project. I've always loved Edvard Munch. It's a little depressing, but when you think about the angst of the human condition, I think it's very appropriate. It didn't take that long, maybe 5 hours for me to carve it, but I've been carving a long time. It might take students 10 hours or even 20 to carve something like this. It's quite simple, it's quite recognizable, and it was a lot of fun making it. For our next project, I sure hope you join us. We're going to be working with leather crafting. Hope to see you then. Bye.